Hello, welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm. Saturday, the 12th of July. What a great day of cricket it's been. What a nice 24 hours of Arsenal reflection it's been, certainly on my part. I want to talk about Noni Madueke and if he might potentially be our solution to that left-hand side. I'm going to put some ideas to you guys. So welcome to the show. And I'm delighted to be joined by Rohan Jivan of the Cannon Podcast. How are you, Rohan?
Great. Me and you both locked in on the cricket today. Locked in.
Absolutely fantastic. Just the weather, the vibes, just a great series.
And the fire at the end as well. The little fire at the end as well. So
I love the little bit of spice at the end. They've got to give as good as they get. Welcome to the show, my friend. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is back to the Daily Grind. Short features on anything that we might want to sort of talk about. The last 24, 48, 72 hours have been largely dominated by the arrival or the potential arrival, the imminent arrival of Noni Madueke of Chelsea, Rohan, which has sent Arsenal fans into a spiral. But I'm going to put to you today a certain suggestion of how we might use him, what I think Mikel Arteta is doing, and I want to get your thoughts as to whether you think it's actually potential or not. So, first question first, Ro. The news has obviously been broken in a very short space of time over the last 2-3 days. Noni Madueke to Arsenal. What's your overarching sort of feeling about it? How have you digested it over the last couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, initially, a little bit of head loss, not gonna lie. Just my brain was fried when I saw the news and the fee. But then I understood the actual intricacies of the deal, which don't seem as bad when you in terms of from what it was reported on. And I think for me, it's a case of I've got 2 points on this. Where the initial one is I worry about the implications that it has on other deals, and that's been my initial thought on it. You know, I was worried about this deal. What does that do in terms of other deals that we could be potentially looking to get over the line? You know, we're talking about Rodrigo and Eze, both of them. Let's say, you know, although I think that's going to be very difficult to do now with Madueke looking very likely to join, and I've always had the feeling in which. And people who've watched the Cannon podcast will know where I've mentioned that I didn't see the need to spend big on the Bukayo Saka backup, although we'll talk about the left wing potential in a sec. But I felt that, you know, the top teams over the years, your Salahs, your Haalands, you can go all the way back to Centurion City as well. They didn't have like stylistically similar players in reserve to their best. What they do is they look at their internal options and they would tweak things. And I felt that we could have done that in the absence of Saka with Nwaneri. Not to say Nwaneri can play as an out-and-out winger, but changing it so that he can thrive in that environment. But I think what's quite clear, and maybe there's a little bit more to this in terms of Mikel being worried about Saka post-injury and managing him. And I think he wants someone who is stylistically very similar of profile. And Madueke is that on the right wing. You know, it's an out-and-out touchline option. When you look at his qualities and you look at the player itself, I think he's got a lot of things that we do lack. And that's where I feel, for me, when I look at the player, I get excited by it because it's the pace, it's the 1v1 ability, the ability to create separation and get shots off, the carrying, and the fact that this is someone who's just turned 23 as well, who's got a lot of experience under his belt already. And for me, was Chelsea's best winger last season, and is Chelsea's best winger, I'd say, outside of Gittins, because I've not watched much of him. So yeah, I mean, for me, like I see the player and I look at the qualities and I think he's going to add a lot of stuff. But it's that feeling of what does this mean to other targets and the implications there. So
I'm really surprised to hear you say that you think he's Chelsea's best winger from last season. I mean, for me, Pedro Neto is probably who I think is there. Yeah, I think so. I think Pedro Neto, obviously he was hampered by injury, but fabulous player. Noni Madueke has played 67 times for them, and he is obviously talented. You don't get to Chelsea, you don't get to play in a star-studded squad and break your way through and then play for England by being a mug. You have to have something about you. He's obviously a talented boy. The last question before we dive into the slides and what I kind of want to put to you in terms of our left side and what I think Mikel Arteta is doing and how we might deploy him on the left is, do you think the outrage, and we covered this on the Late Night Lounge last night, the sort of graffitiing on all these sort of artwork around the stadium, Arsenal fans have just lost their minds on socials. I follow a lot of a lot of people, and there are some people who are quite excited about the signing, but I would say the vast majority are deeply against it. But do you think this comes because we've been, bitten so many times before with players from Chelsea in particular?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's that consistent theme of recruiting from Chelsea and this, supposed idea that Chelsea could be using this money to spend on, let's say, a Rodrigo. There's been like light links there to him, and that's where I think there's a lot of frustration there. And I do think, for me, I'm not bothered about recruiting from Chelsea because, firstly, they stockpile a lot of talent and they've got a lot of really good quality. And actually, it's interesting because I don't know if you've caught it, but when we played Chelsea at home at the Emirates this season and we won 1-0, Mikel spoke about Chelsea being the best attacking team in the league. And
He did.
he did. He spoke very highly about the players and the qualities. And it kind of then makes sense as to why we are looking there. I mean, I feel like I think Kai Havertz has been the top signing for us. And I think the wage you can certainly argue in which we put him on a wage that certainly he didn't earn. But I think when you consider his time here, I think he's been a really good signing and has given us a lot of things in different moments. Best attacker for us in the business end of the 23-24 campaign. So I'm not bothered about it being from Chelsea as long as it makes sense. That's what it is for me, Fies. If it makes sense, fine, proceed. It's just like I say, I like the player, but I'm just a little bit apprehensive about what implications this has on other things. But there is something exciting about Noni Madueke, which you'll get into brilliantly, and you're going to pitch it through the left-hand side, that I am intrigued by because I've not seen enough footage there yet, but there's certainly something to look into for sure.
Okay, so before I do the pitch and before we talk about how he might play on that left-hand side, let's talk about what I think is our dysfunctional left side. Now, cast your minds back a couple of years ago, Granit Xhaka, free-flowing football, that early release out to the left-hand side, Martinelli flying, just being devastating. We've had Leo Trossard now. We've had Gabby Martinelli now on that left-hand side, and I would say that has been dysfunctional. Ever since Xhaka left, we've not really managed to replace him. We tried Kai Havertz at left 8. Mikel Merino came in, Declan Rice played a bit more advanced. We've had 4, 5, 6 different left-backs in that time, from your Sinchenkos, obviously that sort of inverted tucking into midfield, to your Kiviors, your Tierneys, your Calafioris, I've probably missed out one or two. And now, of course, we've got Miles Lewis-Skelly, and we'll talk about that sort of settling shortly. But what are your observations of these two? Because we'll come on to Noni Madueke and we'll finish on the sort of pitch that I've got, and we'll let the chat decide what they think. But there is a need not only to have backup to Bukayo Saka as the option on the right-hand side, but there is a need to elevate what we're doing down the left-hand side. So first up, Rohan, thoughts on Martinelli and Trossard? Do you think they've both or either got a future at Arsenal Football Club?
Yeah, two very different players, I would say. I think with Trossard, I think personally, when you consider the money that we paid for him and the wage that he's been on, I think he's been top value for money. And I think the thing with Trossard is he can be so frustrating in game over the course of 90 minutes, but he pops up with productivity and productivity that matters. And he's done it time and time again. But I feel with Trossard, and I was mentioning this to Alex and George before, where it feels like, and I'd say it's only incremental, but it's incremental diminishing returns after every season. So when he came in January 22-23, second half of the season, he was fantastic. The numbers speak for itself and his performances were top as well. Then the following season, he did well again, but I'd say relative to the back end of 22-23 where he came, it wasn't as good. And then last season, again, I think he did well, but again, it's I'd say worse than the campaign before. So I'm seeing a slight decline there, and I just don't think that we're going to be able to extract enough out of him next season. And being someone who's 30 years old with 1 year left on his deal, I think it's a very good opportunity to evolve past him now, especially with the links to Eze and Rodrigo, where I would say they're not similar players, but I would certainly look at Eze more towards a Trossard type as opposed to a Martinelli type. And that's where I feel it's certainly the right time to move on from him. Martinelli's an interesting one where I think Martinelli, and you've mentioned it brilliantly in terms of 22-23, that left-hand side, Zinchenko, Xhaka, Martinelli with Jesus drifting and just giving us that sheer ingenuity and being able to make things happen. He thrived off the movement that was around there. He thrived off the footedness two lefties behind him in Zinchenko and Xhaka with the responsibility he had in higher areas and the passing connections there, and also continuity. I mean, you go back to that season and that left hand side. They pretty much played a lot of the games in which we were thriving in that first 19 games. That unit. Whereas you see that with the right hand side, how good have Ben White, Saka, and Erdegaard been as a unit? It's because not only because they're fantastic players, but it's because they've had a lot of time. And I feel what we've seen for the left hand side, it's a combination of a few things, and I think that's impacted Martinelli, and we've not been able to get the best out of him. At the same time, him needing to do more, where we've had a lot of changes for the left hand side. I think we've prioritized off the ball work in our press more with the changes that we've made there. And ultimately, we've just not had that same level of fluidity because of these things that have been happening. So, and teams recognize that. Teams press a lot harder on our right-hand side because they know that's where the threat is, and they give us a bit more space on the left. And I think now it's time to evolve, and it's time to really improve on this area, because that's where I think the biggest driver is in terms of Arsenal improving as a team. And I think Martinelli as well, and with the Gyökeres links, I think there's good synergy there as well to help him. So a lot there, but yeah, that's the way I see it for the left.
Well, look, we're setting the scene beautifully, and you talk about evolving, right? So I think Mikel Arteta is building now piece by piece to kind of repair that left-hand side.
Yeah.
So as Hand of Arsenal, by the way, the GOAT is in the house. Says, big up Rohan. Arpit says, love our good you bye. Here he is, Rohan. He is live on Latte Firm. I've got the stats there from Squawker, and I would say that Gabby Martinelli, just first of all, Gabby Martinelli is a confidence player. The system has to work for him. He is very much output driven. You've got to play the ball into space for him to really sort of exploit. When I see him on the touchline and he's being asked to run past two or three players, that's just not his game. He's not a dribbler. He's a great finisher. He moves a lot. He works hard. His off the ball work, I would say, over the last 12, 18 months has been really much better.
Yeah.
Leo Trossard, look, I'm not convinced that he's been a great signing. And there's a lot of people that think, wonderful signing, great value. When we got him, he did a job. He did do a job. He's come up clutch in so many moments, so many key moments. And that maybe alone is worth the fee. Mm-hmm. But again, he's also not that sort of aggressive, ball dribbling, chance creating sort of monster. And that's kind of what I'd like to see Arteta work towards. But of course, you can't just have someone who's got that output when everything behind him, around him isn't as,
there's not the continuity there, is there?
Yeah, you haven't got the automatisms, that we've got on the right-hand side. When you had White and Erdegaard and Saka, people, that's why we go down our right-hand side, because it's functional, it works. So Zubimendi coming in, I know you're immensely excited about this, and we've spoken to your boy George. We did a deep dive into Martin Zubimendi and what he might bring to Arsenal. We both concluded, and it was my sort of suggestion, that I see him as the volume dial in terms of tempo, control. And Clive, who came on from the Arsenal Vision podcast a couple of weeks ago, describes Zubimendi as a player who's got all the clubs in both feet. And I think Zubimendi now coming into midfield, we are going to see the ball being played out to both sides equally and being played out up the pitch quicker, faster, more effective than ever before. And now we've also got young Miles as our established left back. So irrespective of who we play out there in that left wide position, irrespective of whether we get that centre forward with Kai Havertz back in the team, I feel like automatically that left-hand side is going to see so much more of the ball this year because of Zubimendi and a settled left back. Do you have anything you want to sort of add to that before I go fully mental?
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm building it. I'm building it.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it as well on the daily grind that we did before about Zubimendi, and I think it's not just the passing and the tempo. It's actually interesting because did you see the announcement video where they kind of based it around Zubimendi's quality of tempo control, which I found really interesting as well. So it's kind of giving you a glimpse of what he's going to give to this team. And yeah, the early releases. And I think with Martinelli, and this is where I think Zubimendi and Martinelli could work really well. Do you remember away from home against Liverpool last season? It was the first time in the entire campaign where we saw Martinelli making these aggressive out-to-in runs and getting closer to goal. Trossard would drift, Marina would drift, and that would force Konate to get tighter, and then Martinelli would make those runs central, and he wasn't picked out. He did it time and time again. Zubimendi will pick him out. That is his game, and if you watched him against Portugal in the final of the Nations League, he gave a clinic in terms of on the ball and the variety of passing. And Miles as well. the angle I want to go with this, Fies, is I actually think Zubimendi is going to have a big impact on Miles, in terms of where to receive, what positions to occupy depending on the moment, because he's such a smart player, Zubimendi, and he's been in that environment, that Spain team alongside Rodri at times, where it's very similar in the sense to the ideas in which Arsenal want to play with. And I think that can have a really big impact on Miles. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of signs there that shows me we are going to change through the left-hand side. Go to the Gyökeres links. You look at, as you're alluding to, Madueke, there clearly is potential there that Mikel is seeing through the left. Eze as well, those links, it's pointing towards change. And I think, Zubimendi, Miles, they're going to have a big say on that as well.
So what we've kind of really excellent points. And while you were talking about that, I was just sort of reflecting on what lots of people are talking about in the chat, which is we need someone who is an aggressive dribbler, who can carry the ball, progress the ball, bit of a chance creator. So let's go off piece a little bit and talk about this. So we know a couple of years ago, Mikel Arteta was obsessed with Raphinha, right, of Leeds United back in 2021, 22. Really outstanding season for Leeds. Some amazing numbers for a player at a team that wasn't anywhere near the top of the Premier League. And in that time, his prime position was playing out on the right. So a left-footed, very naturally left-footed player playing out as a right-sided, a right winger. And when the links were there, it didn't make sense to me because I thought to myself, Bukayo Saka's already there, the star boy. He's going to be absolutely flying. Like, there's no way that Raphinha is going to come in and play on that right-hand side and oust Bukayo Saka, right? But the interest was there. It didn't go away. We were serious about Raphinha. And what we've seen from Raphinha over the last sort of 2 and a bit years, is an evolution now to the left-hand side. And obviously, you've got Lamine Yamal on the right, who's just unbelievable. But you've got Raphinha, who's completely made that move. He's now on the left-hand side playing for Barcelona, and his output is insane. Contender, certainly, talk on the streets, should have been a Ballon d'Or winner, etc., etc. Let's talk about Raphinha's playing style first, because this move has been quite interesting. He was the main man at Leeds on that right-hand side. He's now gone to Barca. He's playing as a naturally left-footed player, as a left wide player. You kind of see where I'm going here for a second. Why do you think Arteta would have been? Yeah. Why do you think Arteta would have been interested in Raphinha just a couple of years ago? What do you think he would have brought to the team?
I mean, I didn't see Raphinha's explosion through the left personally, and again, it's kind of like, you see a player, you see him play right wing for his time at Leeds. You find it difficult to kind of translate that to the opposite side, in which, you're effectively becoming, in theory, a little bit more predictable, because you're only really going to go down the outside on your strong foot. It's kind of like your traditional wing. Like, go back to peak City Centurion season, it was Sterling and Sane, strong footers on either side, But I think with Raphinha, I think what was spotted is his finishing ability. He's a fantastic finisher, and his movement is fantastic. And where I'll try and support you with this at the moment, because I've not watched any footage of Madueke through the left, is Madueke's movement is actually very good. And I think there was something from expected goal philosophy, that account. I think it looked at him underperforming by 3 or 4 goals. Now, if that was something of a trend season after season after season, you'd look at that and thinking, okay, this is someone who's not a good finisher. But it's just that one time that it's happened, and that shows someone who's picking up really good positions and spots. And that's what Raphinha does. The finishing ability, I think it's night and day between Madueke and Raphinha right now. But I can see the angle you're going with a little bit. So,
this is where I'm at. Yeah. This is where I'm at. There is no way Noni Madueke comes in and replaces Bukayo Saka.
Yeah.
And I am a layperson. We all are. We're sat here on a Saturday night talking about what Arsenal might do. We're nowhere near the coaching setup. Is Bukayo Saka being primed for a different position in the team? Who knows? I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah.
So Madueke is not just going to sit on the bench for £50 million and for £100,000 a week or whatever it's going to be. He's not going to sit on the bench. The purpose of me going through this story and taking you guys in the chat in the journey that we've just been on, we've had a dysfunctional left-hand side for some time. We've got 2 primary outlets on that left-hand side, Martinelli and Trossard, neither of whom are really owning the position, neither of whom are really giving the numbers that you would want them to give, certainly over the last sort of year or two. As much as I love Gabby at Martinelli, and as much as there are people out there that think Trossard is absolutely awesome, and he's come up clutch so many times, cannot forget that. there is a gap. There's an opportunity here, Rohan. And I've watched Raphinha, obviously, over the last couple of years. We all have. He's blowing teams away on that left-hand side for a very impressive Barcelona team. The links were there when he was outstanding at Leeds, but he was very much a right-sided player. But you've seen over the last year, 2 years, he's moved out to a different position. He's just as devastating. Of course, he plays for a top team, but Arsenal are a top team. And now, if we get the pieces right, Zubimendi in the central position, an established left back, we might still see the best of Martinelli and Trossard. And this might be a moot conversation. But I just wonder if Mikel Arteta is thinking about potentially doing something very similar with Noni Madueke. When you think about Madueke's playing style, he's he's taller than I thought, but tall, gangly, looks a bit sort of unaesthetic, when he's on the ball. It's not the most sort of elegant close control, but he carries the ball so well. He progresses the ball so well. He is a chance creator. Like, you look at the stats. We did a deep dive, by the way, into Noni Madueke last night in the late night lounge. Billy Carpenter providing us some really great details, stats from Optra Analyst, and it compared him to lots of different types of players. His output, his numbers, and albeit he's been playing at Chelsea, who are a pretty good team, are really impressive. And I just wonder if Mikel is just thinking about, well, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, and maybe the chat can decide, is this potentially the solution at left wing? Like, who's to say that this guy couldn't establish himself there? Sorry, you got some thoughts?
No, you're good. No, I mean, for me, it's kind of like, I was thinking about this a lot as well, and this is why initially I didn't see the sense of it. I mean, again, I'll still maintain I'm worried a little bit about what the implications are on other things. But I sat there and thought, okay, spending 50 million, on a backup, let's say on the right, that is not normal in football. You can look at PSG and some examples there to show, you need to spend big on the backups as well. So I've felt that, spending that much money, it's not going to be someone who is just going to be sat on the bench, as you've alluded to. But the potential counter argument to this is the fact that we wanted Mbeumo badly as well, didn't we? And Mbeumo wasn't going to be sitting on the bench. He would certainly have a role if he'd come to Arsenal. I don't see us, I don't see him being attracted to Arsenal if he wasn't going to be given that assurance, because he's a fantastic player. And I think with Noni Madueke, the reason why I think there is something there for the left wing, which at the moment I can't comment on properly because I've not watched it, is the fact that we are spending big money on him, and that's where I think Mikel perhaps does see something that could work there. But again, I'm yet to see that, and the angle that I'm going with right now is the fact that Mikel on the right wing, it seems clear that he wants similar profiles there. In the absence of Saka, you've got Madueke. The level difference is clear as day, for sure, but it's about the 1v1 capability and the things that allow Arsenal to maintain the way that they play. That's what Madueke would do on the right wing. And who knows, maybe there's more to it with that Saka injury as to why we want to be able to manage him more appropriately, and that's why Mikel's been quite big on this deal. So it's interesting because I think the movement, the off-the-ball movement and the acceleration and the ability to find himself in promising areas is things that Raphinha does time and time again for Barca. But it's a big if, isn't it? It's a big if. It's right now, as fans, we're looking at it from a theoretical point of view. We haven't seen it in practice properly. But at the same time, we didn't see it with Raphinha in practice until he went to Barca. So let's see.
Yeah, listen, obviously, he's no Rodrigo, he's no Raphinha yet. We know that. But we do know that he's 23 years of age. He's played 60-odd times for Chelsea. He's now a recently capped England international. He's got talent. And maybe Mikel Arteta sees a bigger picture than either you or I or the chat can imagine. People aren't happy. I've got to be honest. People are not happy in the chat. Viggs' comment, "This is insane copium from UFK. He's not a left winger. He was terrible for Chelsea. And trust me, I've hate-watched Chelsea a lot last season. I don't doubt that." Donald says, "I don't see any sense in any of this." Woodpit, though, says he can do it. He can do it. I mean, look, listen, it's just an idea, right? And the whole point of today's show was just to kind of put the question out there that if we are spending a lot of money on a talented young boy, and listen, once he plays for Arsenal, we all want him to do well.
Yeah.
I get that the opinion is split. I know that when we're at the Emirates Stadium and his name is announced, if he's starting in the team or if he comes off the bench or whatever, he will get all the support. He is a gunner, and that is just the way that it's going to be. But I just wonder with some of his sort of physical attributes, his left-footedness, the way that he carries and dribbles and takes shots as well. His shots per game. And you think about, I think Arsenal ranked second highest in the league last year for the most time spent in a drawing in-game state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So I can't remember who came first, but like we were level for, large parts of games. And we tried the same sort of move down the right-hand side, short passes across the box and just, pass the shit out of everything. And you need people that can just disrupt that a little bit, shoot from nowhere or beat a man, go into the box, take that shot. Madueke strikes me as that sort of player because the numbers demonstrate that. The question that I've got is, can he do it on the left-hand side? Would he thrive with a centre-forward like Havertz or Gyökeres and a Zubimendi feeding him the ball with an established left-back behind him? I mean, it could still be Martinelli or Trossard, and that's the question. But yeah, there's not a lot of people aren't happy with that.
The left wing things, it's right now. I'd certainly say from my perspective, a lot of it is theory, and again, we need to see it in practice. But I think just to go on that point about, Arsenal are shot shy relative to other teams. And there's something that I did on the Cannon podcast before where we looked at the number of touches players take in the final third and in box situations per shot. Arsenal are 18th and 19th. They're only one or two teams that take more touches than us. And that is, I've gone on this whole idea of Arsenal overthinking too much in these areas and trying to walk the ball into the net, where sometimes you just need to pull the trigger and you just need to play with instinct. And Madueke, one thing that he'll add here, just in general, is he is very much someone who takes a lot of shots and he creates separation from a stand start. He'll shoot on sight. It is frustrating. I really want to make that clear. His decision making can be rather erratic, and that's where a lot of frustration does come from what Chelsea fans have said and from what I have seen of him. But he is only 23 years old. And for me, the thing that I do, and this is why I want to isolate the deal and the player. The player I'm a big fan of because he's got a lot of really strong physical attributes that this team doesn't have across the front line. He's lightning quick, and his ability to carry is phenomenal. His movement is top. He can beat a man with ease. It's the final third decision making that I think that's where Mikel is looking at. I think at Arsenal, repeatable patterns, a settled environment that could help him at this age, and I think that's the angle he goes for. And there's an interview that he's done before where one of his biggest motivations as a coach is coaching young players and extracting that value out of them. We've seen the work that he's done with Saka. We've seen the work that he's done previously at City for Sane and Sterling, the impact that he's had there. I don't see why he couldn't get a tune out of Noni Madueke as well. So again, it's the deal and the player which I separate, and that's where I stand on it. Really, I like him. It's just I wonder what this does for other things.
Abiodun says, Rohan always with the goods. KSSNYW says, hate this move as much as the next man, but at this point, Arteta's coaching is legendary. Bet against him at your peril. I have a feeling there'll be a lot of fans looking daft at the end of the season. I'll be looking like a genius, Rohan, because when he picks up the Ballon d'Or as our left winger.
At the North Bank. Yeah, just there, like I told you all.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'll just be there. I will just be there, me on my own. Look, I've just heard a lot of people going crazy about Fabrizio Romano sort of tweet. Apparently, the sporting director owner has come out and said, look, Victor Gyökeres hasn't turned up for training, but we're comfortable with that. He can do that for the next 3 years. He's contracted to us. If there's no club that wants to pay the fee that we're asking, we're comfortable with that. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the window to come? Because we've got Kepa, we've got Norgard, we've got Zubimendi. It looks like we could be getting Christian Mosquera, potentially Noni Madueke. Imminently Noni Madueke. What's missing, and does the talk of Victor Gyökeres get your juices flowing?
my two boys at the Cannon have been grilled to pieces on the Gyökeres stuff, and I've watched more of him now, and I do have a slightly different opinion. I like him. I think, again, when we talk about peak Wenger ball, right? You love it. I know you do. Like, the tiki-taka, one touch, clean play, like gets all the juices flowing. I don't think Gyökeres is that type person. He's quite clunky, and he's I'd say he's more effective as opposed to being aesthetically pleasing on the eye. But I am excited about, again, we go back to that left-hand side and how stale it has been since 22-23. I think his natural tendency is to drift down that side, and the impact that it could have on a Martinelli, let's say Madueke as well, perhaps, on the left wing as well. I think that's very interesting there to really galvanise and help that side. So I'm actually a lot more intrigued by Gyökeres. I like him, not my preferred choice, but I'm there with it. The Mosquera deal, I think this is very important, Vice, because we talk about like big signings and level raisers, but we also want to preserve the value of the Salivas, the Timbers, the Whites, and we've not been able to do that in terms of managing their workload because Tomiyasu, unfortunately, is not giving us that availability. Mosquera is a diamond in the rough. He's not fully ready yet, but he can certainly provide some support there, and I think that's a big signing. And then I think for me, Vice, I don't know where you stand on this. I think it's either Eze or Rodrigo with Madueke coming in. I've never felt that we're going to sign 4 forwards unless you're getting 2 sales. I'm talking 2 big sales. And again, I think the Eze thing, I think Arsenal fans, that is the one player everyone is in unison of wanting at Arsenal because of just everything about it, prime age as well. And again, like I'd say Gyökeres, not a Wenger-coded player. Eze, Wenger-coded to a T in terms of that all-round ability, central creativity, carrying, etc. So, and I think that's going to be it, really, Fies. Unless like some excellent market opportunities arise, really. I think we know what we're going to be doing now. It's just a case of do we get these players over the line? And pre-season's soon to come, and I'm hoping that we get pretty much all our business done, hopefully, for it.
Indeed. Lots of shouts for Rodrigo. Listen, I like Rodrigo, the player, of course, but at £100 million, I have always been consistent in my thoughts about, what's the motivation going to be like once you've won it all, seen it all, done it all at Real Madrid. If it's a choice, mate, it's a no-brainer for me. I would love to see Eze. I really think Martinelli Trossard can be reignited. I think Madueke could maybe do something great on either side. And I think if Eze were to come in, there's a beautiful unfinished story to be written, of course, because he was let go by the club and he's the right age. He wouldn't need any time to sort of, resettle, acclimatise. He would start at Old Trafford for me. Eze's that good.
Let me throw you something, right? So let's say we finish the window with Gyökeres, Madueke, and Eze, and then we sign Mosquera as well. Would you be buzzing?
Mate, I'm buzzing already.
Oh yeah, you want that Madueke trade, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I'm gonna send out a tweet tonight so that it's date stamped. But no, listen, all joking aside, I think what Arsenal have done this window, I know it's been really frustrating for a lot of people because of the order of the signings, and we're still waiting for that elusive centre forward. If we get Madueke and one of Eze and Rodrigo, how could you not be happy? We've got a backup goalkeeper. We're not going to have to dick about with a loan keeper or any other purchases. I think Mikel Arteta's bought more goalkeepers than any other position in his time at Arsenal. We've got Christian Mosquera. If it's to be him as defensive sort of cover for our centre backs, no complaints with that at all. Zubimendi is a game changer. He is going to be a huge upgrade on the likes of Jorginho and hopefully Partey. Madueke, okay, jury's out, but he's obviously a talented boy, Ro. Striker-wise, listen, I started off, I wanted Gyökeres. I thought he was the goal machine, the hammer foot that I wanted. I was convinced by actually, some of you guys, some of the younger generation talking about the project and Šeško and his physical traits and how he might grow to be a better player. But then I've gone back to Gyökeres. I'm happy. This is the hitman we need. He is a goal machine. The goals don't move. The nets don't change colour. Like, he knows where the goal is. And he gave us a torrid time. Even in that 5-1 win, he was fighting till the very last minute, running through our defence, hit that sort of crossbar post with that shot. Like, the guy just doesn't stop. I love that mentality about him. So, mate, I'm super excited. I think if we got Gyökeres and Madueke and then signed Eze, that is that's a cherry on top of the bakewell tart, mate. Like, I can't wait.
I think that's what we'll do as well. I don't think we'll go for. I don't think Rodrigo will happen, and I think it'll be Eze. I feel that Eze.
You can't knock that. What a window! Yeah. I mean, what's that? 7 players, 6 players. I mean, that's crazy.
And we've filled in a lot of holes within the squad, right? I think for me, it's kind of like you don't have to agree with every player, Norgard, etc. If you wanted to go younger, let's say on that, fine. But you can't knock the idea of Arsenal understanding the holes that needed to be addressed in this window. And they've done a lot of volume of work already. So, yeah, I mean, I think I have a feeling that Eze deal shouldn't be too difficult, really, because the player, he wants to come to Arsenal. He loves the club, and it's just a case of agreeing the financial package, really, of it, isn't it? The Gyökeres thing's interesting. I wonder how that's going to pan out, but
Yeah,
Yes.
well, we shall see. We shall see. Well, listen, that's been a lot of fun today, Rohan. I've upset quite a few of our viewers, which is great. I'm going to put myself out on the line as a potential genius. We'll look back in future and be like, oh yeah, that bald-headed genius, FK. Listen, Rohan, it's been a lot of fun. And can I just say, by the way, thank you to everybody who's been tuning into the Daily Grinds. There are more than 500 of you watching live right now on YouTube. Please do drop a like on the channel, on the video. Sorry, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Really appreciate all the support. We are verging on 25,000 subs, and I know there's been almost 1,500 of you that have newly subscribed over the last 4 weeks alone. So join me again tomorrow. Kaya Kainak will be my guest. We'll probably talk about the Gyökeres stuff happening at Sporting Lisbon. Sammy Mockbell's back on Monday night to talk about other rumours. James Benge Tuesday. Phil Costa of Arsblog back in the week as well with AFC James and one or two others. So a very, very long list. I'm trying my best. By the way, there's a super chat. Very kind of you, Iman. Thank you firstly for your contribution to the channel. It is always appreciated. Iman says the cost of Rodrigo would not be dissimilar to the outlay for Eze and Madueke, both in terms of wages and transfer combined. I don't agree with Madueke, but I see the logic. I mean, that is a dilemma. If you could buy just Rodrigo or buy Eze and Madueke, for me, having two is always better than one. I don't think Rodrigo's that much of a superstar. And I think Eze and Madueke give us two very separate and different things that we desperately need.
Yeah. No, I do, but I do hear that, and I think that's because I don't know what it is, but the wages that Madueke, I mean, I don't see him settling for 50K, I think, a week. I'd imagine he'd get a little bit of a bump, but it's not usually usual for players to just stay on that same flat line.
Even if he's doubled it, 100 grand a week. I know it sounds outrageous, but 100 grand a week at top tier football club these days is not. It's not.
It's not excessive, is it?
It's not. 5 million quid a year. It's not that bad. Iman, thank you for that. I really appreciate that, man. That is very gratefully received. A lot of people giving you a lot of love. People saying that we need more of Rohan. I think Grumpy Doctor said earlier on. Exactly. And when are you going to do the hairline reveal?
So this is the consistent theme.
I know. I watch you guys every day. I know that. I know what it's about. Right, listen, if anybody wants to follow Rohan, he's available at Rohan Jivan AFC. Rohan is also found on the Cannon podcast. You guys are doing absolutely fantastic things on that channel. I love to see it. Be very thick-skinned and can't wait for the new season ahead, man. Thank you to all of you that have tuned in. Drop a like before you go. Let's see if we can get the 500 likes today, and subscribe, of course, if you're new. If you're tuning in late, there are lots of interesting videos that you can go through the channel feed. Enjoy them, get involved, and I will see you tomorrow. Until next time, stay cool, sleep well, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow. Bye for now.